Welcome back to Believers IAS Academy. In today's topic of the day discussion, we will be discussing about the indigenously developed 4G stack of the country, which is also pretty much famously called as the Swadeshi 4G technology as well. So in this particular video, let's try and understand what this new indigenously produced 4G stack has to offer for the country's development, because it was recently unveiled at the very famous India Mobile Congress 2025 by the Prime Minister himself, and he claimed that this is going to transform the India's 4G technology and would help India place itself amongst a very small group of countries who are currently capable of producing a full telecom stack. So now, which are the few group of countries which already have it? Of course, it's the Sweden, we have Denmark, and then we have South Korea. So this transformative initiative by the country is definitely going to transform how it is going to help the domestic users also, and also would help position India in the export market as well, considering how this would help the Indian exporters and also the domestic people as well. So in this particular video, let's understand what 4G stack is, right? And we will also try and understand the key Indian contributors, right, with also making sure that we discuss in detail with respect to the features of the 4G stack, right? And going forward, we will also try and understand and compare it with the China's digital Silk Road initiative, right? And we will also talk about the strategic rationale behind this development for the country, and we will also discuss the benefits, significance, and probably end the video, right? So pretty much we will be discussing everything about the 4G stack, absolutely required for the examination. It's a very important concept from the mains perspective mostly, so hence we will discuss all the nuances pertaining to this particular issue. So let's begin. So even before we start with respect to what the features of the 4G stackers, let's simply understand what 4G is. So 4G, unlike your other generations, like let's say other broadband, like we have heard of 2G, 3G, even there's recently 5G. So 4G, or the fourth generation, is simply a mobile broadband, right, which enables mass mobile internet usage to make sure that people or the users can access high speed data, can also make use of, or let's say can even stream HD quality videos, and also helps in wireless broadband without having any fixed lines. Now, what are the key enabling technologies behind this 4G? One is the LTE, that is the long term evolution as the air interface. Then we have MIMO, which is the multiple input multiple output for the spectral efficiency. And then we have OFDM, which is the orthogonal frequency division multiplexing for the effective data transmission, which cumulatively works, right? These technologies cumulatively work to deliver the higher bandwidth, better spectral efficiency, and also lower latency than earlier generations, right? So this is what your 4G technology is with respect to the internet, right? So now, what is 4G stack? So basically 4G is the network that we discussed, right? 4G is basically the broadband, or I can say this is the network. Now, what is 4G stack? So 4G stack is a telecom stack, right? It is having an end-to-end set of both hardware and also software which runs a mobile network, right? So we have 3G, 4G, 5G, which is a mobile network, and 4G stack is an end-to-end encrypted details of both hardware and software that helps these or that helps the functioning of a mobile network. So it typically basically includes all of these four things. Of course, this is very important to know, right? Because these are the things which India mostly used to outsource it from the outside countries, and now India is pretty much relying on our own indigenously functioning companies or outlets which are providing all these facilities. So now, for the 4G network to run, or the 4G stack, right? These are the four typically used softwares or institutions which club together and provide both hardware and software facility to a particular network or a mobile network to be functional. So first is the radio access network, or the RAN. So basically these are the base stations and the radio equipment that connect handsets to the network, right? And then we have the core network, right, where we have to, in fact, if we have to see about how the management of the particular network is functioned, right? Also, where does the database of all the subscribers of that particular network stores, and also with respect to security and routing of that particular network. So it is all concerned with the core networking, right? So there are different agencies in India right now which provide all of this individually, which we will see in the next slide. And third important feature for any 4G stack is the transport and OSS and BSS, right? So basically, these are the ones who are responsible for the connectivity, operational support of the systems, and even the business support systems for mostly billing, monitoring, and even the management of the network, how it is functioning. And then we have with respect to the integration and the system software, because ultimately we need something which is cloud enabled, right? A cloud native orchestration, virtualization layers, and even management consoles for operators to ensure that even if there is an update, right, an update which can be provided for everyone, all the users in one go, right? So these kind of technologies need a cloud enabled system. So these are the four important key technologies or key hardware and software enabled technologies which are required for any mobile network to be functional, right? So now this indigenous 4G stack means all these modules are designed, manufactured, and integrated within the country. Means all of these important things which we discussed is important for this 4G stack, means it is right now being designed, manufactured, and also integrated within the country and reducing the dependence on the foreign vendors. So now, who are the key Indian contributors for all of this? So for RAN, we are using the Tejas networks. For the core networking, we are using CDOT. For system integration and deployment, we have TCS, right? And overall, it is the BSNL, who is going to do the rollout of all of this, right? The BSNL rollout uses this consortium tax. Of course, it is for, with respect to BSNL, it is also very challenging considering the kind of private competition that it has. Because if we have to see the total subscribers or the users of BSNL, it is somewhere between 97 million users as compared to its competitors like Jio and even your Airtel. The kind of subscriber base it has is almost mostly in 400 to 373 millions, right? So these many customers are presently subscribed to Jio and Airtel as compared to just 97 million subscribers in BSNL. So now, of course, although India is trying to bring this change, it is going to be very difficult on the BSNL's part, considering how well this will be implemented and will be made competitive, so that all these subscribers from these private vendors like Jio and Airtel ultimately makes a shift to 90s, makes a shift to this BSNL, right? Of course, talking about the technology, it is top notch, right? But also considering how satisfied the customers feel is also the utmost responsibility of BSNL, which is also something else to discuss probably on a next video, right? Depends on how the implementation happens. But of course, it is very important that BSNL has to ensure that it is providing the utmost services, right? And that's what will determine the proper implementation of this, because with respect to the statistics, it is planned that more than 97 to 98,000 towers, the network towers, will be placed or will be installed across the country, with an ambition to pretty much help more than 27,000 villages, to ensure that connectivity is given to every household, right? So this is a very great initiative, ultimately depending on how BSNL is going to function, right? So that is the reason why I had to talk about all this data. Now going forward, we will discuss about the features very briefly, right? Because it is all self-explanatory. Because one is, what is the first feature of this 4G stack? It is end-to-end indigenous ecosystem, which we already discussed. Means everything is either developed or procured or even let's say manufactured in India, right? Even the vendor lock-in, everything, right? And it is cloud native and software first architecture, right? It uses virtualization cloud principles for making sure that it enables scalability, remote upgrades, faster features, right? That we discussed. And then it also has 5G ready, right? It is also pretty much planned in a manner that it is future proof. The design is future proof, because 5G is pretty much rolling out very soon, and now we're talking about 4G stack, which means it is not completely outdated, but it is pretty much future proof, right? And talking about how this is going to happen, the rapid deployment and wide coverage, as we discussed. It is planning to deploy about 92,000 to 98,000 towers across the country, and it is planning to connect over 20 million new users, bringing service to every remote tribal villages, right? So that is also one of the key feature. And talking about the security and data sovereignty, since domestic deployment is what is happening, it allows greater control over how data is monitored and how data is used, right? So that is once again self-explanatory, because since earlier we used to hire foreign agencies, or let's say all these data were either transmitted to a foreign server, which was probably in place in somewhere else, let's say in USA, right? So now USA's data security rules are absolutely different, right? And there were huge instances when data leaks used to happen. But right now, since everything is happening domestically, we will definitely have a greater control on all our own data, right? And this pretty well make sure that operational security is going to be in place, mostly for the national security also, right? Because that is the utmost importance of data security, right, for the national security and the defense uses. And it is also boasted that this initiative is cost competitiveness, and also has a local supply chains, right? Because local manufacturing, it obviously benefits the local manufacturing and software development, pretty much reduces the life cycle costs, and it also ensures that more jobs will be created in the IT field. It will also even strengthen the domestic telecom ecosystem, right? And also it pretty much evades of the predatory pricing by their or let's say the very adversaries in the particular field, right? And going forward, it is also said that it is going to be operator friendly, right? Because integration with the OSS and BSS system. Don't worry what OSS BSS is. Just understand that this is going to be operator friendly, right? Since it is cloud orchestrated, and we don't have to worry about further things, because it is going to make everything easier for the public operators such as BSNL, especially this is concerning the remote rollout, right? And the effectiveness it will have on the rural households, especially to provide the rural broadband programs, right? So now, how is this different from the India's, or let's say, what is this has to do, or what does 4G stack has to do with China's digital Silk Road policy? Because see, what is China's DSR, digital Silk policy? Because basically it is the state of the model art, let's say, it is something that US or the China is trying to build. In fact, it is over the period of years supplied affordable telecom infrastructure to Africa, Asia, and elsewhere, making sure that they are building commercial ties and strategic influence, mostly in terms of providing the communication facilities, right? So that is pretty much in basic what China's DSR is. So now this India's approach will provide an alternative which pretty much pressurizes or emphasizes more on affordability, security, and local context customization, and non-coercive financing, right? So this India's financing mechanisms, right, although are pretty much nascent compared to China, it is still going to be standing on, considering the affordability and also considering the security that the Indian companies can provide. So India pitches this 4G stack alongside its digital public goods, right? So that is also another important thing. So pretty much like what China has with respect to its digital Silk Road on the BRI, Belt and Road Initiative, right? So we have this as well. So this is one of the dimensions that you need to know. That's all, nothing much. Now talking about the strategic rationale, right? One is it provides sovereignty on how the country's data is being monitored, right? And in fact, it is a friendly option to countries vary of dependence on a single supplier, right? And also it provides a leverage, right? It leverages the diaspora. In fact, even it leverages development ties, even soft financing to win the contracts over the other countries. In fact, right, in terms of how the finances are going to be used in this telecommunication field. And this also, it uses telecom exports to deepen geopolitical ties and provide India's firm global scale, right? So this can be used to export or to increase our exports in the telecom industry, and this would also help India to deepen its geopolitical ties, and also it will help India provide, or let's say, it will help India's firms to have a global presence, global scale presence because of this, right? So now, what are the benefits? One is digital sovereignty, as discussed, digital inclusion, because we are talking about implementing this over 28,000 villages, and national security, because everything is indigenously made, so there is no point of data breach, or let's say the data localization is pretty much guaranteed, so it is obviously nationally very secure. And then economic and industrial gains, because we are talking about how it would boost the local manufacturing services, and also it will create more employment, and also it will reduce the import bill also, right? And talking about the geopolitical leverage, also offers an alternative to Chinese vendors, right, who are pretty much thinking of the DSR, right? And also this will add more value for the India's connectivity, or let's say India's 4G stack also. And proof of capability, right? Developing a full stack, and this is very few amongst all the other group of nations which has this full stack network capability, right? So it demonstrates rapid indigenous technological capability and systems integration strength, right? So this is also one of the thing which proves India's capability in in producing something indigenous even in the telecommunication field as well, right? So at the end, what is the key takeaway? Simply to understand this India's indigenous 4G stack is a strategic milestone, of course, for digital sovereignty and an exportable alternative to China's DSR. But converting technical success into sustained geopolitical and commercial wins requires competitive financing, especially on the government part, and also in terms of how the implementation happens on the BSNL part, right? And also the after sales networks and even the global trust, right? So this is pretty much it. So I hope you have liked the video. Signing off, this is Madan Gopal. Have a wonderful day.